starting to see some great games come back to the Mac, but this is one of the coolest I've ever seen. This game is going to ship early next year from Bungie, and this is the first time anybody has ever seen it. It's the first time they've debuted it.
Macworld 1999, we got introduced to the world of Halo, an action-adventure third-person shooter taking place on a completely other world other than our own. This was an ambitious game from a studio known as Bungie. Bungie at the time really only did RTS games, and they haven't made a video game quite like this before. In the year 2001, Microsoft unleashed to the world that they were making their own video game console to take on Nintendo and Sony. And at this moment, Microsoft actually bought out Bungie, and they decided to go and make a partnership with them to release Halo on the Xbox. This practice of Xbox buying different types of companies to make the Xbox worth something was definitely a thing even back in 2001, so them doing this is definitely no big deal. Gosh, it's only been 2 years away since that deal went through? Or hasn't? Gosh, I've lost track of time. Microsoft's eggs were in the basket known as Halo. If this game flopped, the Xbox brand would flop. This was their flagship franchise, their Mario, their Crash Bandicoot. If this failed, they would have been kicked out of the video game market. But sure enough, it did succeed, and I feel like it's all thanks to the new genre of game that they decided to change Halo into. Instead of a third-person action-adventure game, they went into a full-on first-person shooter. Prior to Halo, first-person shooters weren't really that common on consoles. The only thing close that we had was GoldenEye 007 and Perfect Dark. Solid games in their own right, but going back to them today on the original N64 controller, yikes, try playing a first-person shooter with this controller, holy cow. Halo became the 2001 Game of the Year, going up against such classics as GTA 3, Devil May Cry, Sonic Adventure 2, Final Fantasy X, and even Super Smash Bros. Melee. Master Chief was here to stay. Halo means so much to me as a video game franchise. Not only was it one of the first times I saw that story can be implemented in the video games just as well as film, but also just the gameplay, the atmosphere, and the community surrounding Halo definitely made me being a Halo fan pretty enjoyable. I was enjoying the entire ride with my dad, and it's still to this day one of the games that me and him can still bond over and still play to this very day. Throughout this marathon, I'll be playing the Halo Master Chief Collection. It's a compilation of all the different types of Halo games in one neat little package, and I highly recommend giving this game a shot if any of these games look interesting to you. Sure, it did have some bugs when it came to online multiplayer, but for the campaigns, they pretty much stayed the same, and as someone who's played it since 2015, that is saying a lot. Well, I think I did this intro long enough. This is Halo Combat Evolved. In the far reaches of space, we see a ship fly towards a ring. This ship is known as the Pillar of Autumn. The ship belongs to the UNSC, the United Nations Space Command. They've been in a constant back and forth with a full-on war with the alien race known as the Covenant. They basically come in all different types of flavors, and we don't really know too much about them. Dare I say, it kind of feels alien. But back to the story, Jacob Keyes, or Captain Keyes as we know him as, basically just made an escape off of a planet known as Reach, and the Covenant were right behind them when they made the jump, so it's time for them to go unleash their secret weapon. A super soldier that will make Captain America blush. This right here is the Master Chief. The Master Chief as a character is so surrounded in mystery that it honestly kind of reminds me of The Legend of Zelda's Link. He basically is a character that I feel like you're supposed to put your own shoes into, and I feel like they did a fantastic job. Yeah, so he has his own dialogue from time to time, and he makes some funny jokes here and there, but he's not one near obnoxious, or he's not even really a character too much. Like I said, he's mostly a vessel for the player to go and experience the world that they're about to go into. We have one more character to talk about, and I feel like this cutscene definitely encapsulates her entire personality.
A dozen Covenant superior battleships against a single Halcyon-class cruiser. With those odds, I'm content with 3 Make that 4 kills. Sleep well?
No thanks to your driving, yes.
So you did miss me.
This sassy AI is Cortana, and she holds valuable information about Earth and the other planet that we escaped on, Weech. Because the Covenant is now attacking the Pillar of Autumn, it's up to Master Chief to take Cortana and get her away from here as possible.
Your architecture isn't much different from the Autumn's.
Don't get any funny ideas.
Master Chief alongside a couple Marines make their way to an escape pod and decided to go land on the Wingship planet, with the Pillar of Autumn going down in flames. As they're making their way into the planet's atmosphere, the ship clearly catches on fire and...
Chief? Chief, can you hear me? At last. Are you alright?
Master Chief is now on the wing-shaped planet, and it actually looks pretty beautiful. There's even some moments where you can actually see the halo ring out in the distance, and it kind of looks like a giant moon. Chief fights off some Covenants and saves some Marines, and then ends up flying away when they've heard that Captain Keyes got kidnapped by the Covenant. So it's up to the members of the UNSC alongside Chief to go and save Captain Keyes, but when they end up saving them, we actually found out some more information about this wing.
According to the data in their networks, the ring has some kind of deep religious significance. If I'm analyzing this correctly, they believe that Halo is some kind of weapon, one with vast, unimaginable power.
So with the UNSC on the Covenant knowing that Halo is now a weapon, it's now a race to go and stop the Covenant from using the weapon to destroy the entire universe. And the way they're going to do it is they need to find the Halo's control center. But once they reach Halo's control center, something a little off happens. A lot of information gets dumped right here, but basically some creatures known as Forerunners were technologically advanced and basically made this entire wing. We don't really know too much about the Forerunners yet, so I will just say that they are just basically different types of creatures. And before you can say what the heck is going on here, Chief has to now go save Keyes and the rest of the UNSC members and try to get them off the planet because Cortana found something that she doesn't want to share just yet. Come on, Cortana, you tell me you didn't have enough time to explain that Flood are basically evil zombies that eat both humans and Covenant, and the Halo wings are basically made to go destroy both of them? Come to think about it, who has that much time to explain all of that to one person? I feel like I explained it to you, and I feel like you look at me crazy. This was such a chilling moment in my time of playing video games that still, to this day, still get chills whenever this cutscene plays. Now with the Master Chief having the knowledge he has, he tries to go back to Cortana, but this little eyeball looking thing shows up, and this is 343 Guilty Spark. Sparky over here explains to the Chief that if he wants to stop the Covenant and the Flood, he has to use the wings in order to destroy them both, but Cortana sees that as a bad idea, as when we gave them the Index, Halo's gate card, she says this.
You have no idea how this ring works, do you? Why the Forerunners built it? Halo doesn't kill Flood, it kills their food. Humans, Covenant, whatever. We're all equally edible. The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death.
The eyeball confesses we ended up leaving to go and actually find Keyes, because once again he got kidnapped. Man just can't catch a break. Unfortunately, due to the Flood escaping, the ship that the Covenant was on that had Captain Keyes on it ended up getting to Captain Keyes and doing that to him. After Master Chief literally punching the dead Captain Keyes corpse to get the key that we need, we end up making our way back to the Pillar of Autumn, back to level 1 in order to explode the Pillar of Autumn to basically stop the entire wing from activating and saving Earth. With literally no time to waste, in a Metroid fashion, we escape the Pillar of Autumn as it is exploding, and we end up taking to the skies and ending off going back into space, destroying this Halo wing and everything on it. The day is saved as the Master Chief sits down and takes off his helmet, still adding in that mystery aspect I brought up before, ending Halo Combat Evolved. Boy, oh boy, that is one start to a story, and heck, with this being the first game in the series, it's simple yet effective. We don't really know too much about the mystery behind Halo, but that's what gets us all speculating like what's going to happen next, or if there's even going to be a next game. This was Bungie's first attempt at making a big cinematic story, and I feel like that they've knocked it out of the park with this one. This game has so much character, from the loudmouth Sergeant Johnson to someone like 343 Guilty Spark, who oddly seems pretty fine destroying countless lives if it means just getting rid of the Flood. And then we have Master Chief, the walking arsenal superhuman that definitely has more personality than I feel like a lot of people give it credit for. Yeah, sure, he's a good vessel for the player, but at the same time, like, he has his own motives, his own goals, and his own dreams that I feel like definitely add to his character being very well written. I don't feel like my plot synopsis did a fully justice, but definitely if you're looking for a good sci-fi adventure story, the first Halo game delivers and then some. Oh boy, I feel like that's one of the longest plot synopsis I think I've ever done for one of these videos. I apologize for that, but now it's up to Bungie to make a first-person shooter using this, and let me tell you, I think they finally did it. I don't really know how else to describe the gameplay of Halo other than fun. This game is just fun to play, and let me explain why. So in Halo, you have two different types of weapons. You have the normal human type weapons, and then you have my favorite type of weapons, the Covenant weapons. And the Covenant weapons come in many different flavors, such as plasma rifles, plasma pistols, carbines, and my favorite, the Neolord. Basically a mini toy of death that can destroy anything in its path, and I love it. I feel like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch with it. The enemies you fight are definitely the most fun I think I've ever had fighting against enemies in a video game. They're so unique, from the grunts that if you have a certain skull on, which is a game modifier, they pop like confetti. I love it. To the elites in this game that have my favorite design and all my favorite enemy to fight in this game. Now let's talk about the Flood, because the Flood, while good in concept and in story, is definitely not really good to fight up against. They are the worst enemies in this game. They will come out when you least expect it, eat up all of your life, and it's in the worst level of the game, the library. I hate the library with a burning passion in my heart. This is one of the worst levels in any video game ever, but it does not tamper the rest of the game's experience. Just the Flood are very annoying on repeated playthroughs. Graphically, in 2021, this game has still aged up pretty well, and I'm speaking for both versions here. The original still has a nice type of charm, while the Anniversary Edition definitely cleans up some of the graphics, and actually makes it look way nice. Other than like the base humans, everyone else in this game kind of looks pretty good, all things considered. And then we have the music from the one and only Marty O'Donnell, one of my favorite composers here in the video game market, and I feel like his music is legendary, and definitely knows when to be tense, when to be suspenseful, and when to add mystery to it. And I definitely appreciate his music and his contribution to the video game industry. Mario O'Donnell, you rock for that. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. This is now a shameless plug. One of my favorite things to do in Halo is the multiplayer, but you guys probably going to find this kind of funny, but I actually don't have many people in order to play multiplayer with in order to record footage, with most of my family being busy and with most of my online friends not really owning the game. I just had no luck finding anyone to basically get gameplay footage of, and had to rely on matchmaking, which MCC's matchmaking for Halo Combat Evolved sucks. I'll get into MCC and its problems later down the line, but the bottom line is I basically have no way of showing multiplayer. It took me forever to get any sort of games, and whenever I finally got games, it was midway through games, and that was just so perfect. Yeah, thanks for that, jerk. I'm going to say this about this Bungie era that I'm talking about, but every single Halo game I feel like improves upon one another, so going back and playing Halo 1 is kind of similar to going back and playing Smash 64. Like, it's fun in an archaic sense, but you kind of just want to go back and play the best game in the series. Who says anything about foreshadowing, am I right? Like I said, if you want to get into the Halo series, I highly recommend playing the Halo Master Chief Collection on Xbox One and PC. It's definitely my favorite way of playing all these games, and beautiful high definition, 4K, all that fun stuff. And like I said, you can even turn on game modifiers, which at the time of Halo 1's original one, you actually weren't even allowed to even use skulls in the game. So it definitely adds that nice little bonus to an over 20-year-old game. Halo 1 is still an amazing game, and despite my negative outlook on it, I don't think it's aged the greatest out of the first 3 Halo games, but I still think it still has that 30 seconds of fun that all the rest of the Halo games built upon. And speaking of which, one of the ideas of Halo Combat Evolved was online multiplayer. Well, unfortunately they couldn't get out before the game was fully released, so with the next game, Halo 2, they fully embraced online and actually helped create the online ecosystem we know today, which means people like this exist. I think online was a mistake. Special thanks to Cat Chat for sponsoring me on Patreon. If you guys want to support me on Patreon, link is in the description down below.